Well, good morning everyone from Findhorn. We stayed in the Findhorn motorhome stopover last night, which was really good, and this morning we decided to start the day for a walk along the massive beach. It's an absolutely huge expanse of sand. I think it runs 7 miles, and it's a really, really good place to stretch your legs, and nice and empty as well for the dogs to have a little run around off lead. It's also pretty cool because there are these World War II defences, which pretty much run a fair amount along this beach, and they just make it that little bit more interesting, something to look at. I quite like the way that there's sort of these massive concrete industrial, very functional things set amongst the sand dunes and also next to the gorgeous natural beach. Just love the way that those two quite random things are put together. So yeah, it makes a really cool walk. Findhorn is at the mouth of the river, you guessed it, Findhorn. So if you go further inland along the estuary, you'll find the centre of the village where there are shops, cafes and restaurants and pubs, etc. But our first stop of the day was the Findhorn Foundation, which is a sort of ecological and Christian settlement. I took a walk in there to get some coffees from the cafe, and it seemed really quirky and quite cool. Really not into religion or anything like that, but it didn't feel overwhelming. It was quite welcoming, and yeah, the cafe was pretty good. You'll see what else we picked up from there later in the video. Next up, we took a drive through the town of Forest, which looked quite nice from what we saw of it. We didn't stop and have a look around, but just from driving through, it looked like it would be worth a quick walk around. But we were obviously feeling a little frustrated this morning.
Why are you looking as if I'm about to run you over? What's up, love?
And I think I'm allowed to video your high street.
Yeah, and I'm also
from my own motorhome.
I didn't run you over.
Yeah, you nearly walked into
exactly, because you were walking across the crossing diagonally onto the road.
After 400 yards, turn left.
Go any slower?
I keep telling you, it's the pace of life here.
Don't say thank you either.
Well, that's been true most places on this trip, hasn't it? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Why is he flashing me? You're in the wrong, mate.
We're waving goodbye to the sea today, as we've decided that we're going to drive through the mountains, through the Cairngorms via Glenshee to get to our overnight stopover, which will be just outside Pitlochry. Although the weather's pretty good as we're driving through Forest, by the time we hit the open road, it's taken a turn for the worse. And it's going to stay like this for pretty much the rest of the day, but then I guess it is Scotland, it is March. We park up for a spot of lunch with a view, and when we get back onto our journey, it is definitely getting more scenic as we're heading through the mountains. A little bit further on, we pull into a large area, a viewpoint, because the views here are pretty good. I'm not sure the photos do them justice. There's a grouse here, believe it or not. Not my best wildlife capture ever, but it was exciting nonetheless. Then it was time to hit the road again. You can see the snow on the tops of the hills here, which was quite exciting. And we were heading towards the Glenshee Mountain Resort, and more importantly, Tea The Shee. We'd seen this on a Steve Marsh video quite recently when we were like, yep, let's go and check that out. We weren't certain whether it was going to be open. We thought it would be, but we weren't sure. We were very relieved to find it definitely open and definitely serving hot drinks and delicious traybake. It's also massively dog friendly. When we asked if ours were allowed to come in, the guy looked at us as if to say, well, yeah, obviously, of course they can.
You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone.
Our stopover for the night was in Blairgowrie. The weather had really set in by now, so Sandy did the sensible thing and curled up next to the warm heater, and we tucked into those treats that I'd bought at the Findhorn Cafe earlier that morning, and very delicious they were too. Definitely recommend them. They weren't cheap, but they were good. And just listen to that rain. I have to say, we do like it when we're in the motorhome and we listen to the weather outside. Next morning, the weather was still pretty miserable, but that didn't stop us enjoying our trip over the Forth Bridge. Yeah, it was raining, it was grey, it was pretty miserable, but it is still an impressive feature. And it also meant we were nearing our stopping point for the morning.
Won't you miss the ones you know? I'll be here, hanging on, waiting for your call. Seems like time as a wave passing by, leave a mark in our minds to turn to memories. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. The river's gonna cry when you're. The river's gonna cry when you're. The river's gonna cry when you're gone. Hey, I was hoping you would stay, but I've always known you would go and find your own way. I still see when we climbed up in those trees, 12 years old, to feel the wind and watch the river run. And the sun would always shine when we sat there, you and I. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone.
Good morning from a, as you can probably tell, quite wet South Queensferry. We had hoped to walk the dogs here to break the journey south, but it's probably just that little bit too wet for them at the moment. Probably wouldn't be very pleasant for anybody. So they are sitting with Kerry over there. In fact, look, there's a train going over that bridge if you can see it, and sort of keeping warm and dry. South Queensferry looked pretty nice when we drove through, so I'm just going to head for a quick walk just to scout it out, maybe see if there's a takeaway coffee that's close enough to walk it back without it getting cold. But looks like it would be an absolutely cracking place. Well, it's a cracking place today, to be fair, but you know, if it wasn't quite so wet, it'd be pretty brilliant. Where we've parked up is a free car park, and what a view. So yeah, it looks like a really pretty town as well, but let's go and find out. If you're in South Queensferry and you're looking for a gift for someone else or for yourself, to find lots of really nice things, do drop into Harbour Lane. I almost missed the sign for it, but I'm very, very glad I didn't. I could have spent an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money in here. There were some really, really lovely things in there. I got a few things to take back, but yeah, you could spend all your money in there. With a bit of retail therapy under my belt, it was time to see if I could find a coffee, and ideally one relatively close to the motorhome so that it would have a bit of a chance of making it back there still warm. There are lots of cafes in South Queensferry. This one was really good. I'm sure the others are too, but Brew Culture I can definitely recommend. Lots of fancy things on the menu as well as your normal teas and coffees. It had a really good vibe in there. It would have been good to sit in there, but obviously it was just me on my own. I did take a few dog treats, and the dogs can highly recommend those as well. But it was cool. Got a few pastries, and I even tried a turmeric latte, which was good. There's even a view from the public toilets in South Queensferry, and some nice old touches too. That's all from us today. Join us next time as we will be departing Scotland and heading down to a place that is going to shock us. So don't miss that. Do stay with us. If you've liked, please like the video, subscribe and share, and we'll catch you next time.